All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome to the peer-to-peer stage. My name is Ben Perrin, and I'm host of the BTC Sessions on YouTube, and I'm going to be your MC for this morning. I hope everybody's doing good. Everybody have a good morning so far? Everybody just waking up, not enough coffee yet. Well, thank you for coming to join us here on the peer-to-peer stage. I wanted to let you guys know of a couple things that are going on today. There's a couple different changes. Due to weather, this evening will be the drone show. And so you can see that outside here in front of the lake. That will be at 8 p.m. tonight. Okay, so 8 p.m. tonight for the drone show. Don't miss it. I heard it's spectacular. It'll be my first time taking it in. And then also, if you're a speaker or you have a cyberpunk ticket, the dinner, because of the drone show, is postponed to 8:30. That is just across the street at 7 Restaurant. So just note, again, speaker and cyberpunk dinner tonight at 8:30 p.m. And with that, I want to introduce our first speaker for the day. So we're going to be having Greg Carson. He is managing partner at Humla Ventures. He's also a host of a podcast you may have heard that is known as the Transform Podcast. And he's going to be talking about the future of finance, Bitcoin, stables, and Layer 1. So let's give him a warm round of applause. Welcome to the stage.
Testing. Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Carson. I'm really grateful to be here, and thanks for the organization. We're going to talk about the future of finance, and that's more like the financial ecosystem in general and how I see things evolving. I am hosting a podcast called Transform. But before we start, anyone here see my talk last year? Oh, good. Okay, so there'll be a little experiment because I'm going to do the same paradigm slide, and you already know the answer, so you have to shh. So on this slide, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 faces and/or bodies. Can you guys count them for me? How many people see at least like 8? Everybody should raise their hand. How many people see 9? Oh, wow, a lot of people. How many people see 10? You should see 10. You was here last year. Okay, let me count again. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I see 10. So if you sort it out, please don't shout it out. Just let me know if you see. Look a little bit closer. There's definitely 10 there. How many people see 9? How many people 10? A couple people see 10. How many people are not going to raise their hand no matter what I say today? Okay, good job. What if I told you that the 10th one was not a human face? Now look at it again. What if I told you it's hidden within the image, a 10th one? How many people see 10 now? How if I told you it was an animal? A zebra? How many people see 10 now? How many people still like, what's he talking about? At least a couple people. So there's a zebra here. You see? The point is paradigm shift. So everyone know what a paradigm shift is? A paradigm is when you have a different way of looking at the data. So nothing in the image changed, only what you knew about the image. So the data stayed exactly the same. Only what you knew changed. So I like this paradigm because when we talk about Bitcoin and finance, there's a massive paradigm shift that we expect because of Bitcoiners. Everyone here, how many people here have heard of Bitcoin? How many people refuse to raise their hand no matter what I say? A couple. So in the Bitcoin community, in my background, I come from Wall Street originally. I was working in finance and Wall Street with UBS. And then in London, and was involved in a lot of things. We started the fund when I was at XBTO, which was one of the first Bitcoin market makers. They made markets for for Bitflyer, Gemini, all these original, BitMEX, all these original exchanges. And then we started doing direct investments, and we started a strategy on that. We spun out as Humla Ventures, and we have around 65 investments. We are active in a number of regions, and both on the mostly in Bitcoin-related kind of companies. So the history of Bitcoin, everyone knows. Obviously, there's been an evolution now where we have the institutionalization. So, as you know, there's been an ETF now approved. There's a derivatives market. There's dozens and dozens of tools that people are using for Bitcoin and trading. We obviously have Tether, our wonderful sponsors of the event, which is a critical point of the system. We also see that Bitcoin is now number 13 in world currency pricing. There's a nice little thing where you can see the market cap of every other currency priced in Bitcoin. Bitcoin gives us a nice little measurement stick because it has a fixed supply. It's the first time in history that you could actually measure currencies that are floating against each other with a single ruler. So everything is changing now. I mean, basically, we see finance is changing, economics is changing, energy is changing, resource priority is changing, assets and money printing has changed. We see remote work. We see Web3 identity type stuff. So everything is changing because of this introduction of Bitcoin. So where does that take us now? That's taking us to a massive transformation. If you are in tech, you saw the transformation of the internet and consumer interactions. That was maybe a $2 trillion transformation in the 1990s. It went to B2B in the 2000s and the 2020s. And now I think we're at a place where we're seeing what I would call the financial markets transformation, which should be maybe $25 trillion change. It's massive. It's much bigger than any tech transformation we've seen, because the way that transactions happen, the way that money happens, the way that debt is made should change. So when we talk about Bitcoin, especially in the last 20 years, we've been talking about the money supply and how valuable it is, store of value. But what's been really inspiring to me is the future I see, which is a move to 24/7 decentralized financial system, which means trading, banking, everything starts to change. One of the big things that could change would be debt. We see the derivatives market as it stands today is a $1.2 quadrillion market, $12 trillion in the gross OTC of all derivatives contracts, and it's 2.7 just with the cryptocurrency derivatives trading in 2020 already. So we also see stables. Everybody has heard of stables. Stable coins, in my opinion, I'm what you might call at the moment a stablecoin maximalist, which is that I don't think that Bitcoin will reach its true potential if you're a maximalist, or you think that it's going to change be a currency or a reserve currency. It's not going to achieve its full potential until we have a complete move into stablecoins as a primary mode for digital currency and whatnot. We already see that it's $164 billion. This was last year. Now we're up to $190 billion in stables and $75 billion of daily utilization. So this number here is the most. This number here is the most important here. The 24-hour volumes here. So no other, not Bitcoin, not any altcoin, anything like that, has nearly this daily transaction. This is what means that it's being used in society. It's being used for do trades. It's being used in trade finance, everything like that. So it makes it a very, very important. In fact, I would say Tether is probably the most important invention in the crypto space, because it allowed people to go risk off without going back into the banking system. It allowed people to trade and price things without going in and out of the old system. So this is my little chart of where I think we're right here at the beginning of the ecosystem utility. But the idea is that the Bitcoin utility has a potential much bigger, and we have this kind of pyramid where basically innovation and funding and other ideas. This is where we saw like ICOs and meme coins and crypto and DeFi and all the things that Bitcoiners hate. All these like Ethereum and shit coins, they call them. All this stuff was happening, but this has been very important to the innovation of the world. So as things get more adopted, as we go into massive adoption of other blockchains, Bitcoiners get very competitive. Those are scams, whatever. But what's really been happening has been a massive testing ground where we can test other things, and then basically quality moves up and shit moves down. So at the end of the day, when we get to the top of this curve here, where the ecosystem utility maxes out and we have full capability for real world assets, we have full capability for smart contracts on Bitcoin, we have full market systems, then we'll finally have this kind of financial ecosystem. So right now, I'd say the only killer apps that exist right now because of Bitcoin and stables is trading. Digital, like basically trading is the killer app that we see. Stable coins and value transfer, DeFi and yield has already been proven as an important component of the ecosystem, although it's very nascent in Bitcoin. You know, with HODL HODL and some of the new layer 2 stuff that's coming out, people are trying to do more and more of this. And then NFTs, ordinals, play to earn has kind of already proved itself as kind of like killer app, even though it's maybe not all of our favorite ones. And then there's some other ideas here, like payments on Lightning, DAOs and Web3, lending and borrowing, which have potential, but they're not killer apps yet. They're just potential. So as I see the financial system evolving, I see this kind of core here. Basically, we have dark pools of money, which is how investment banks work. That needs to be turned into an access system. We have banking products and on and off ramps. That's infrastructure that needs to continue to be created. Like Strike has a licensed on and off ramp in the United States. And then we have the various exchanges. We have prime brokerage and custody, which probably, how many people here know what prime brokerage is? So prime brokerage is the most important component of the financial institutional ecosystem. So what we're all interested in self-custody, and I want to be able to hold my own keys, not your coins. But in the financial world, when you're trading hundreds of billions of dollars on a daily basis, you need to lend and borrow and swap between currencies and on a moment's notice. That's what prime brokerage is. If you don't have the ability to do that, you will never get the full ossification of Bitcoin in the financial institutions. We invest in a company called Hidden Road Partners. They do prime brokerage with digital and traditional combined. I'm pretty sure they're going to be utilized by most of these financial ETFs and things like that as they come. And then they'll settle either derivatives on Deribit or they'll settle on various exchanges, but they settle in massive volumes. We need prime brokerage and custody to evolve to a next level. Once Bitcoin is embraced as a money and as a tech, we already embrace it here, but it has to be to the next level in infrastructure. The dollar stablecoin gets ossified, meaning that there's so much stablecoins that it starts to emerge as a primary modus of digital transfer. And then regulatory certainty. Obviously, we all want that. We have that in some jurisdictions. But these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6 things, once those are done, then we can start to have this other stuff really start to turn into a real system. My pointer is kind of going in directions that aren't working. There we go. So then, like right now in Bitcoin, we don't really see decentralized exchanges. We have a couple names here and there, but not like you have in like other emerging blockchains like Ethereum and Uniswap and that kind of stuff. That's all coming. Trade-in financer without the banks. Functional derivatives and price discovery. We invest in a company called Deribit. How many people have heard of Deribit? How many people trade on Deribit? So Deribit is 92% market share of the Bitcoin's options. We'll talk about that in a second. It's critical when it came out for price discovery. So what comes next is basically trustless DeFi, trade finance, which is the ability to do massive trades like oil or commodities trades and do that without a bank. Now the banks hate this and they're fighting like crazy, But right now, if you want to sell a tanker with $100 million of oil, you have to do it through the banks. There's 4 or 5 banks that control letters of credit, and it's a certain system that happens to do. What we want to do, what Tether wants to do, what a lot of people want to do is be able to do that with either stables or Bitcoin. Stables is really more likely for the first 5-10 years. But to be able to do that transfer of commodity without hitting the banking system and giving 15% to the ecosystem just to lend the money. We're seeing the interlinking of infra. I talked about prime brokerage and investment ecosystem. It's something that in this room, we're more like, okay, well, how is Bitcoin going to work? But in the financial world, we really need that infrastructure to get in place. And then finally, we can do on-chain tools where we start to get much more decentralized and trustless outcomes. As we saw now, we have this institutional tsunami for years and years. I guess when we were speaking at Bitcoin Magazine events, Consensus, previous Plan Bs, we're saying, oh, the institution's coming, institution's coming. And then we would always say, oh, it's already here, because we got like Paul Tudor Jones said Bitcoin on TV or something like that. But now it's for real. Now Bitcoin is the fastest growing ETF of all time. Everyone give a round of applause to Bitcoin. Yeah. And institutionally, I highlight BlackRock because they also have just been approved to do a Bitcoin options ETF. Which for me, being an investor in Deribit and Hidden Road in these companies, this is a really critical moment because options for Bitcoin is quite small percentage. If you look at where options are in commodities, we're here, like 1981 for commodities. In real commodities, the gold options market is roughly 30 times the spot market. Options give you this massive price discovery. It basically helps you price futures. It helps create hedges with futures trades, and it becomes a big institutional tool. So what we see here is this is where we have to go. Deribit has this curve. The options have this curve to come. I'm running out of time, so I need to go a little faster. My button stopped working. Is it on? Yeah, I think it's on. Do you have another one? Or can you go to the next slide? There we go. Obviously, Tether is an important player. Tether's market cap is over $120 billion. All in treasuries, which makes them... Next slide. Sadly, I can't do this. No, one back. Oh, maybe it just started working. Yeah, it started working again. So that makes Tether the 19th largest holder of treasuries in the world, a critical buyer. From what I understand from Paolo, I think he said that they are the 3rd largest buyer of short-term securities in the world and the 3rd largest private buyer, which means that they're surpassing, they're basically becoming one of the most important lenders to the United States, which makes it very interesting. And from a history standpoint, we can see that basically from the introduction of Bitcoin, we have exchanges. We had Tether launched in 2014. We had the Lightning Network launched in 2015. We had the SEC declared Bitcoin a commodity in 2018. We have Deribit launching in 2016. So with 14 and 16, these two critical moments where we have a way to be in Bitcoin and out of Bitcoin without going back to the banks. And then we have a derivatives market with options that allow for true price discovery for the institutionals. We had BRC20 launched in 2023. Why is that important? Because now we're starting to see that with Taproot and the technology inside of Bitcoin, we're able to start doing tokenization. We're starting to do ordinals, stuff like that. This creates a very interesting opportunity, and we've seen a massive amount of venture capital go into early stage Bitcoin companies. How many people have invested in one of the Bitcoin companies in the last kind of like 12 months or 14 months? Anyone doing something like that? So you're seeing basically this huge set of companies. We have layer 1 type companies, sidechain companies. We have protocols, Stacks, which is kind of a layer 2. We have Runes and BRC20, which allowed you to tokenize. There's a new group called OpNet. They're basically creating a Bitcoin layer 1 tokenization that's a little bit more evolved than BRC20. We have the Liquid network and Lightning allowed to do transactions. These are all capabilities. Now you have all these other companies which are trying to build on layer 2. Some of them are working, some of them are having struggles, some of them are doing really well. Some of them have like $500 million valuations. So they're basically they're trying to innovate the way that it happened outside of Bitcoin, now within the Bitcoin ecosystem. It's a very good time. So this is just to marking that up. We also see real DEXs and real infrastructure coming. A DEX obviously is a decentralized exchange. This is not the holy grail for all exchanges, but it definitely shows an indication that you can start to do trades outside of the banking and the centralized ecosystem. On the centralized stuff, there's key players like I had mentioned, Deribit, Hidden Road, Strike for Medium, Bitwave for accounting, for Medium for asset management. These are companies you probably never heard of. But there are companies that we invest in our firm, but it's also companies that are critical to the evolution that's going to allow the real ossification of Bitcoin in the ecosystem. So the OpNet guys are really interesting because they are using the Taproot tools in a very creative way to create essentially an ability to do kind of almost smart contracts or real smart contracts on Bitcoin with layer 1 without any sort of EVM link or link to another technology. Pure Bitcoin is something to take a look at. Everyone should take a look at that. They haven't launched it yet, but it'll be like they'll have like an OP20 ability to tokenize on top of Bitcoin, which means that all the things that you could expect, because what is the promise of Bitcoin as a tech? We need to be able to tokenize. We need to be able to lend. We need to be able to create yield. We need to be able to transfer other assets within our ecosystem in order for it to be the financial future that it promises. Key things of OpNet is you can create fungible or non-fungible capabilities. You can do transactions on-chain with Bitcoin as with another asset. And it's basically enabling for synthetic and custodial stablecoins. So you can imagine there's an important stage that we need to get to, which is we need to be able to do wrapped Bitcoin. We need to be able to custody Bitcoin as an institution, trade the Bitcoin without having that kind of massive amount of risk of that, like basically where our Bitcoin is exposed really up front with our counterparties. That enables for them to do basically kind of like possibly a Uniswap on Bitcoin, which might come out. So Uniswap basically transformed the way that all the other tokens were able to interact, because it created an ability for everyday plebes to loan money into a liquidity ecosystem. Liquidity is the key for the financial markets. And traditionally, it's all come from dark pools and investment banks. So dark pools and investment banks would basically offer the liquidity, take all the house money, it's like taking the rake or taking the VIG out of the system. What Uniswap did is it created a chance for everybody to participate in the VIG. So we need that in Bitcoin, and hopefully that's coming in the next year or so. Especially if OpCat gets approved, we have real covenants on even on top of the OpNet concept, then we'll be able to really kind of like move into the next layer, next level. So, anyone have any questions? I just want to make sure I have a couple minutes to do questions if anyone has a question or a thought. Go ahead.
So with the emergence of the approved options markets, BlackRock and so forth, do you think that Deribit has a future?
Does Deribit have a future with the approves? The question is, does Deribit have a future with the approval of options for the ETF options from BlackRock?
Yes. They're not so in the, let's say, highly regulated spectrum as other
they're just not regulated in the United States. So
in Panama, right? Or
actually, they have a license in Dubai now. Yeah, so they're 90% of all global options. They don't do any options in the US. That's all done on CME. I'm pretty sure that the BlackRock ETF will actually, I'm guessing they'll actually settle on Deribit. If you remember remember the first graph that I showed before, the volume of options as a percentage of spot, it should grow dramatically. So even if they settle 100% of those options on CME, basically on the CME system, it's not an ideal. They settle in dollars, so it's not a really good. The CME is not an ideal trading system. It's going to grow the overall view of options. So Deribit, which is already maybe one of the top three exchanges in the world, top 3 well companies, top 3 technology, just all around good business, it should magnify it. And I'm guessing that BlackRock will not be constrained to the United States for the underlying. That's my guess. Go ahead.
So what is the best regulatory place today? The U.S. is still the biggest.
Oh, where's the best regulatory
The
location?
regulatory to launch all these incredible initiatives.
I'd say regulatory. I think the best regulatory combined with the best ecosystem would be the Emirates, UAE. That's where that's where Binance is. That's where Deribit is. That's where a lot of capital is. They have the Abu Dhabi, stock exchange is starting to, having access to Middle East money. And they have the most stable regulatory environment. You could argue El Salvador, because they're obviously pro-Bitcoin, but they don't have the same kind of financial center. Singapore was, but after FTX, they started to tighten up quite a bit. Hong Kong is very solid, but that's under China. But a lot of people are really favoring Hong Kong. United States is not very good. Europe is absolute disaster. I mean, sorry. But Europe is really interesting if you think about they basically created the best company of all time with Tether, Italian founders, and they're basically attacking it. So Europe could have been the absolute leader in all of crypto by embracing it and making it critical, but instead they passed Mika, which is essentially an attack on Tether. Any other question? Oh, go ahead.
There we go. Okay. So you spoke. All of this is very interesting. So you spoke about lending and borrowing, stable coins, derivatives, and I'm just going to ask you a question now. Why not just use Ethereum for this? Why build all of this from the ground up?
How many people want to use Ethereum for this stuff? Okay, no, I'm kidding. It's a loaded group. Well, first of all, Ethereum doesn't have the commodity, the same kind of regulatory coverage that Bitcoin has. Bitcoin is the most stable and secure network that's ever been created. We're preaching to the choir here, but Bitcoin also has an asset that is capable of being a currency, like a government currency within El Salvador. Other governments are considering using it. Other governments have already authorized it as an asset. Why not use Ethereum is a good question. I don't know if I have the right answer, but I think that the perception I have after reading the white paper and after getting into Bitcoin, years and years ago, is that it's perfectly designed to be this kind of ecosystem. It's just limited because Bitcoin is created in a very special way. It's designed for inevitability, which means that it moves glacially slow. Ethereum embraced the Silicon Valley mindset of innovate to break and adjust. It came out proof of work, it changed to proof of stake. There's no real understanding of what the market, what the total supply is of Ethereum at one time. And obviously it has a lot of momentum, but I would say that the institutions would be worried about it. So I would say the answer is, I don't believe that it has the right characteristics to outlast Bitcoin in that standpoint. With Taproot enabled a lot of new capabilities. I'd say 50% of Taproot's capabilities aren't even documented. So like the OpNet guys that I know pretty well, they've dug into the code itself. A lot of Taproot's not even documented. If we get a BIP like OpCat is improved, or we get some sort of almost 302, or some sort of drive chain approach, Bitcoin will do everything that as soon as smart contracts or covenants are on Bitcoin, it can do everything that Ethereum can do and more. It's just not fast enough. So then you have to worry about the speed issue. But I think that with Nostra and Lightning and sidechains and layer 2s and the evolution of other technologies, it's going to easily solve itself. That's my answer, I guess. How are we on time? Oh, we're done. So everyone, thank you for your time. Oh, I got to go back. If you want to follow me on Twitter or see my podcast, you can Google it on YouTube. I have an interview of Adam Back. I have an interview of Arthur Hayes. We did Yat from Animoca. Hopefully we'll get Paolo on there from Tether. And then if you guys are interested in investing or want to pop questions across to me on Twitter, you're welcome. So thank you very much, everyone.